Happy Monday. I am so excited to be sharing with you a brand new series this week, all around the different developmental windows of your early childhood and how they will be impacting your money making and money receiving ability as an adult. This has come off the back of some really incredible, insightful conversations that I've had over the weekend in my DMs, off the back of the post that I did last week around the fact that your relationship with money actually started before you could even spell the word money. And that's what we don't realize, particularly when we are what I like to refer to as the first generation of business founders who are trying to create healthy relationships with money. So maybe you didn't struggle for money when you were younger. That's the misconception. A lot of people that I work with, they believe that, well, do you know what, we were okay growing up. Doesn't matter. It's all about your relationship with money and how that was modeled to you as you were growing up. It's all around how you were, the standards that were set for you in terms of your own self-trust and self-worth. That's what we're talking about when we talk about money, because money is just a reflection of your internal reality. It's a very literal mirror, mirroring back to you what you believe is worthy and possible for you. So as much as I talk about money, it's really about your relationship with self that I'm talking about, and that is obviously formed in your early years. It's actually formed in the womb and what you were experiencing, what you were exposed to, and it is so powerful because that conditioning, that programming is what has essentially led you to this point in life. And if you are perhaps either not making the money that you know that you are capable of and deserving of, or you are making it but it feels tough, it feels hard, or maybe you're making it but you don't necessarily feel good in receiving it fully, in receiving those compliments, that visibility, stepping into your next level self, then all of this will come down to the paradigms that were created in your early childhood and what your parents and caregivers and tribal leaders and elders, what their relationships were like with themselves and what was modeled to you, what success looked like, what the attitudes. And what I was hoping to do, because it is such a big topic, it's why the whole first module of the First Generation Academy is all around remembering how you got to this point, remembering the parts of you that, because we come into this world with a shiny blueprint of our highest potential in terms of our wellness and who we were meant to be and how we were meant to serve and how we were meant to thrive in this lifetime through our human design. We had that already created for us from our moment of conception, but definitely from our moment of birth and days prior to that. But what then happens is life gets a hold of us. Our experiences, our lens at which we view the world gets a hold of us. Our parents' attitudes, society's expectations, trauma handed down through our generations and through our DNA gets a hold of us, and it takes us completely off track from our highest potential in this lifetime. So my intention with the First Generation Academy is to start to get people, good-hearted people like yourself, to remember and almost like wipe the slate clean, cleanse their energy, start to plant the seeds of awareness as to where things have been taken off track so that they can fully embody that highest potential version of themselves. And yes, that will be mirrored back quite literally in the amount of money that you are able to receive, which means that if you are a good person who's making good money, you're going to spend that and pay it forwards in good ways, in, further out into the universe, and that's how we make the world become a better place, as well as healing our own trauma and raising our own vibrations that is going to impact our family, our children, our legacies, our community, the collective as a whole. So no biggie, but this work is truly game changing. And yes, I'm talking about money, but it's so much bigger than that. So as I said, the relationships that we had and the experiences that we had when we were like between the ages of, every stage of childhood development is important for different reasons. But what I wanted to share with you today on this live, hi everyone, let me know if you can hear me okay, by the way, because I'm using a new microphone. I'm just checking. I'm not the most tech savvy, but I'm a manifesting generator. So if you know your human design, let me know. We are designed to move very quickly, so those things don't hold me back. I don't care if this isn't perfect, because I know somebody is going to need to hear this message today, and it's going to be a game changer for them. Because my intention with this live series this week is that I'm going to plant a seed of awareness now, and it's going to be the gift that keeps on giving as the week unfolds. So essentially, what I want to talk about today is the childhood development window between the ages of 0 and 2. So this is where we are really starting to learn about attachments with our parents and our caregivers, siblings. This is where we really start to learn the principles of trust, not only in the people around us, trust that we'll be supported and that people are there to look after us, but also with ourselves, because there's a lot of, early years experiments where we are continually failing, but having self-trust that if we pick ourselves back up again, we will figure things out, i.e. learning how to walk. But how does that relate now in your adult life? Learning that if you try something, it doesn't work out, it's no big deal, because you've got trust in yourself that, any decision that you make is going to be the right decision for you, that you can always figure things out, that you're resourceful, that you're resilient. How much of us lack that now as adults? Because, as we've moved through life and things haven't necessarily worked out, or we've been made to feel bad or wrong, or we face judgment or shame or embarrassment. I've got girls that are kind of pre-teens and teens, and oh my god, the level of anxiety and social awareness is insane, because I'm now like in my 40s, way past that. I don't give any F's what people think about me now, but I forgot how much of a journey that can be. And that all starts, that journey starts between the ages of 0 and 2. So if you learn healthy attachments and, you didn't have this either toxic codependency with your parents, where you had the helicopter parents who wouldn't allow you to fail. I've really had to kind of catch myself in this moment, because what can happen is if you experience trauma in your childhood, you become like almost the other way, completely over coddling your kids, completely over mothering them, trying to protect them from life itself and every negative experience. That means that then you're building children or raising children that aren't emotionally resilient, that have so much fear around failing, or haven't experienced the negative consequences and been able to shake it off and know that they will survive. You're then kind of raising I don't even know what the word is, but kids that aren't emotionally resilient, essentially. So I've had to really check myself in this moment to ensure that I am finding the balance and I'm not going so far one way that it's actually causing trauma in itself. Because what I want to say is trauma is relative, right? Now, anybody that knows my story, that's read my book, that's followed my socials, that listens to my podcast will know that my childhood was very turbulent. My dad passed when I was very young. I experienced childhood homelessness multiple times due to money throughout my early years, when I should have just been worrying about simple things. I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. I had a parent that, a mum that wasn't very emotionally resilient, wasn't very emotionally available. I was essentially raising my siblings and just dealing with stuff that no one should have had to deal with at that early age. That has obviously impacted, the way that the things that I accepted into my life, the way that the relationship that I had with myself my whole life, the way that I sabotaged my success, the way that I didn't feel worthy, the way that I parent my kids, all of that was formed in early childhood and those early years experiences. But here's the thing, you might not have crazy extreme trauma. It's all still valid because it's relative. My kids are still going to experience trauma, even though they're never going to experience it, abuse or any of the things that I did when I was younger. They're never going to have that, because I'm here to protect them in a very present and literal way. But they are still going to have their own shizzle to deal with. They're still going to have experiences that have absolutely nothing to do with me. And because of their lens of the world, is their interpretation of those things is going to be completely different as to how I would view that situation. And, even just me, I literally had a son. I've got a 6-year-old son. Let me know if you have kids, if you are a mum of girls, mum of boys. But literally, oh my God, I denied him V-Bucks and he cried for 2 hours straight. I mean, he's 6. He shouldn't even be on Fortnite. But that was a trauma that imprinted on his nervous system. Absolutely. Because the devastation was real. Now, like I say, that is what we would say is a little T trauma, but to him, with no reference to anything worse than that happening in his lifetime, thank God, that is still going to have left a mark and left some kind of belief that might need unpicking if it continues to be confirmed as he moves through life. So as I said, 0 to 2, this is where we're learning all about trust and safety. This is where we know that if we fall down, we get picked up. That if we fail, it's okay. This is where our nervous system is being regulated. It's why, and again, my beliefs as a parent may not be the same as yours, but I've never believed in the crying out method. I think that, I've done my research and all it shows is that children don't necessarily learn to self-soothe as we anticipated and as we believed when I had my older children. More research has developed to show that actually it doesn't teach children to self-soothe. It just teaches them that if they cry, no one cares, no one's coming, and it essentially teaches them to just not bother. Don't cry because it doesn't solve anything. That is when our babies' nervous systems are being regulated. I do a lot of kangaroo care with my kids, contact naps. I am that mum who essentially knows that I didn't have any of that growing up. So I know the importance of feeling safe, feeling secure, and that is what I want to leave my kids with in terms of my legacy. And I truly believe this is why the Academy has been created. It's because this is our true legacy. I have seen and invested in so many money mindset programs over the years, but all they focus on is the money. And it's like, how do we become like a rich queen, a trailblazer, iconic, and all the things. And these women and men who are leading these programs are fundamentally broken inside. Yes, you may have a lot of money, but if you are not happy, if you are not safe in your own self and therefore not acting in shady ways, then all of that money means nothing to me. It's fleeting. It's why 70% of lottery winners lose their money within the first few years because they haven't acclimatized to it. They don't feel wealthy. I have obviously experienced self-sabotage myself in my own entrepreneurial journey, where I essentially spent my money like I stole it because I hadn't dealt with any of this stuff that I'm talking about now, and this is what we talk about in the Academy. So as I said, that age is where you are forming attachments, where you are learning self-trust, where you are experiencing safety, and where you are regulating your nervous system. If you experience any sort of a trauma, so this could have been even just me now having so many kids. I'm a mum of 6, if you're not aware. Just having the baby now coming in with lots of other energy in the house, lots going on. Can I be as emotionally present and available in terms of her needs as I would have been if I only had one? Well, I would probably argue that I'm even more so because I'm more conscious now of that. Like say with my first daughter, I had to go back to work when she was only 6 weeks old. I essentially had to hand the reins over to my mum, who again, I already know was an emotionally avoidant and unavailable parent, but actually she was a pretty good grandparent. But I was handing it over to her, who had very old school beliefs around like kids crying out and they need to be left alone and you're making a rod for your own back. Let me know if any of this relates. So I would actually argue yes, but equally I know what it's like being a mum with lots of young children. You can't be there and do all the contact nats and do all the things that you would have done necessarily with good intentions. So if you experience any sort of trauma during that time, you will have difficulty as an adult feeling safe in relationships. Now, this could be relationships with yourself, relationship with partners, relationships with friends. You will also struggle with your own emotional regulation. I've seen this where there are, and equally a lot of this correlates with your human design, which is interesting to me. And you may also have a sense of a fear of abandonment. So how this then relates to your money story and your relationship with money, because it's just the same as any other relationship in your life, is that you will have an inherent fear that money goes, that there is no financial stability. You're used to having that roller coaster of emotions, but also that showing up in your reality. So I've seen it where clients are almost like, when things are good, they will show up. They will be in their element, doing their thing, so the money flows. When things behind the scenes aren't good, maybe they've got, issues with their at home, issues with partners, they don't show up, they disappear, they retreat, so therefore their money dries up, their leads dry up, they lose trust with their audience, so therefore they've got this inconsistent cash flow. They equally are afraid to invest because they don't have trust in themselves that they can make that investment back. They also don't trust that any money or success that they have had is going to continue, because they are used to the in and out. As I said, maybe they had emotionally avoidant parents. Maybe they just had really frigging busy parents that didn't know better. And what I would say is, when you are thinking back to your childhood and trauma and all of these things, I always love to caveat it with, our parents are, the generations before us lived in very different times. They were all doing the best they had with what they had available to them in terms of their own inner fortitude and toolkits, how parenthood was modeled to them. We probably grew up in the generation where, or they did definitely, where children were seen and not heard. So, being a conscious parent and including your kids, that wasn't a thing. I remember going abroad with my kids and it literally blew my mum's mind. She was like, but it's so much money. Like, why would you take your kids? Like, isn't it a waste? And I'm like, no, I want to. Laura's just joined. How the universe. Good morning. So Laura will get this. I don't know if necessarily you had parents with the same mindset that I did, but I was just saying about the importance of showing your kids the world and traveling with them. And yet that was a belief that was so alien to my parents. Now I'm like, my kids are like the coolest people on the planet. Of course, if I'm going somewhere amazing, I want to take them with it. That's my legacy that I'm leaving to them, is to know that they don't need to be overwhelmed by these things. They're not out of reach. They don't need to be intimidated by, these, because when I was young, oh my God, I didn't know anybody that went abroad. And if they did, it was probably Spain. And that felt foreign and fancy and so out of our league of possibilities that I was instantly intimidated by anybody that had a passport. Nowadays, like, my kids are like talking about, like, can we go back to California? Can we go to New York? Like, they've done all these things. It's no big thing. And it's not because they're entitled or rich. It's because I have removed the fear and the ceiling that separates us and them. We don't have that in our house. Anything is possible. Nothing is off the table. Even if it takes a few years to save up for it, why the hell not? Like, if they can do it, why not you? And that's that is for me the true generational wealth that I'm going to leave my kids. It isn't money, because there's always going to be more money and they're always going to have their own way to make money and create success and whatever that looks like for them. Exactly. My first real travel age 13, it changed my entire future. Yeah, 100%. Same for me, because finally I realized there's such a bigger world out there. Up until that point, all I had to give me that kind of confirmation that I wasn't an absolute like weirdo in my family was books. And that's why I feel so passionate about reading, about writing, because it gave me escapism to a world outside of my current like community and made me feel accepted and seen. But as soon as I started traveling, like 100%, I was like, oh my God, I need to bring the kids here. So as I said, if you experience that though, that childhood trauma between the ages of 0 to 2, then all of those things will be coming up for you right now. So I'd love for you to kind of reflect. And if you've only just joined, obviously, please go back and watch the video, because I want to keep these quite kind of bite-sized, so that, again, if you're like, no, that doesn't apply to me, you can kind of move on. Obviously, tomorrow will be ages 3 to 6, so come back for that one. But today, 0 to 2. So when you reflect back on 0 to 2, how many siblings did you have? How present were your parents? What generation and beliefs were they raised in around conscious parenting? As I said, my mum was very much of the generation, don't pick the kids up too much, you'll make a rod for your own back. If they are crying, let them cry it out, they'll self-soothe. No, they fucking won't. That's actually like, and when you think about it now as a conscious parent who is doing the work, and presumably if you're following my page, you are somebody who is committed to doing the work, because you just intuitively know that some of the things that we were told growing up maybe doesn't, the math isn't mathing on that. I took my son to New York at 18 months. And yes, the flight itself was an absolute fucking nightmare, but actually I really loved it, because what he learned, he was 18 months with me. I always joke that we walked our way to New York, because we were literally just doing laps of the plane. What he learned was that the world is a beautiful place, not only from the experience, but also from the travel, because it was a flight full of Americans, that literally every time we went round, rather than like annoyed faces, huffs, judgment, shame, like literally I wanted to cry, because I felt so supported in that journey, because it was Americans, because Americans are amazing people, and British can be really fucking miserable, let's be honest, on our travels. every time we went past, people were like high-fiving him. Hey buddy, how you doing? Like, nice to see you, like still not asleep. And they'd be like supporting me. And it was just, again, 0 to 2, that was his experience. Not only is it safe to get outside of your comfort zone, to have routines that aren't the norm, that aren't overly routined and prescribed, because I also had my business at that point, and we were, every day was different for him. He learned a lot of trust in other adults. So again, like celebrated, people were clapping for him. That was his experience, not only of travel, but also of adults outside. When I went to the barbershop, straight away he was taken out of my arms. I had a hair salon, all women that were like, give me the baby, give me the baby. So he learned very quickly not only to act, communication skills, to act in accordance with the environment. So obviously, he wasn't a whiny, clingy baby, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying that I was always so grateful for that he was so well adjusted, that he felt so safe with other adults, that he, within discernment, because I was always there, obviously, I'm not handing him off to strangers. But he would, feed off of my energy, that if these people are good people, then I'm okay. And now what the feedback that I get, he's nearly 7, and I always get from teachers how well adjusted he is, how confident he is, how caring, how nurturing, how confident he is, how articulate he is, how well he is at seeing and identifying the needs of other children. Like if people are sad, if the teachers are sad, he can see that. He's a very sensitive boy. And I think that is because, again, he was just exposed to as many life experiences, because equally for me as the parent, I didn't want to sit every day and be just like a mum, and that's my whole identity. I had businesses to run, I had payroll, had other children, school runs, and I also wanted to live my life. I wanted my kids to see me thriving. So he was right there, my ride or die, alongside that. And that for me is like the greatest generational wealth, but that wasn't modeled to me. So I had to do the work. So if you understand and resonate that for yourself, I would obviously, some of that is resonating for you, that you struggle to make those decisions, that you lead very much from emotions, but almost from a place of debilitation rather than empowerment. If you have discomfort in receiving, if you are distrusting of yourself and others, if you are used to your needs not being met, and you're accepting that, then there is something in your childhood that needs to be unpicked and healed. So not only would I love to invite you to join me inside the First Generation Academy to do some of that work, but if you're not quite ready for that investment yet, then I do actually have a masterclass that's coming up in the next couple of weeks that I think would be amazing for you, called Wounded to Wealthy. So if you put wealthy below, I'll send you the details. I'm just waiting for the sign up page to be created. And also, obviously, this is your safe place. This is where you won't experience judgment or any of the things for those desires and innate knowings that this isn't right. Yay, amazing. Okay. I'm so glad that you didn't do it cry it out, Laura. It used to break my heart. Especially when I was working, I had to hand my kids over to my mum, knowing that would be, again, just her lens and how she did things. So yes, thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed today. Please let me know if you are watching back on the replay, if you've got any takeaways. My intention is to, like I say, just plant some seeds of awareness this week so that you can start to reclaim your power, so you can start to commit to your healing. I've obviously got some other resources that I can help you with, whether you are ready to invest or whether you are not. And just thank you for being here and sharing this space with me at the moment.